What if I told you that Jesus had a secret habit that he practiced before every miracle, and that this habit can heal your mind today? Look, before we continue, let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like your mind won't stop racing? That anxiety is consuming you, that no matter how much you pray, read the Bible, inner peace just won't come? Comment below now, I need this peace. Because what I'm going to show you today will completely change the way you deal with your mind. We're talking about real inner transformation. It's not self-help. It's not a trendy technique. It's what Jesus actually did. And look how interesting. Before healing the blind, before calming storms, before raising the dead, Jesus would withdraw to a secret place, a place of spiritual silence. And it was there, in that unseen environment, that he renewed his mind and found a strength that no circumstance could shake. Today, you will discover the 12 spiritual habits that Jesus practiced to maintain mental balance, even amidst chaos. Simple habits, yet so powerful that they transformed the history of humanity. And the best part, you can start applying each one of them today. But stay with me until the end, because I've saved something special for you, the verse that Jesus used as the foundation for this peace that the world cannot give, the secret of Christ's peace that will make everything make sense. So stop everything now, put your phone on silent mode, and come with me on this journey of healing the mind, because what you're about to discover could change your life forever. Do you know what nobody told you about emotional healing? That it doesn't begin with noise. It doesn't begin with more music, more sermons, more events. It begins with the exact opposite, in silence. We live in a time where everyone wants to fill every second. We wake up and immediately grab our phones. In traffic, podcasts, on a walk, music, in the waiting room, social media, and when we finally stop, our minds explode. Thoughts flood in like a torrent. Worries, fears, painful memories. It's as if the silence reveals everything we were trying to hide. And do you know why? Because our brains have been trained to run from silence. We're afraid of what we'll find inside, afraid to face the battle of the mind that it wages every day, hidden in the noise. But Jesus knew something that most people ignore. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is the environment where God speaks loudest. When you stop trying to control everything, when you turn off the outside noise, something happens. Your thoughts begin to organize themselves, your emotions begin to calm down, and you realize you weren't alone. You never were. It is in spiritual silence that you discover that God has always been there, waiting for you to stop shouting so that he could whisper. Jesus used silence as a weapon, as a strategy, as the foundation of all his inner strength. And if you want to experience the same inner peace that he had, according to the Bible, you need to start here, in the place you've been avoiding, in the only place where true healing of the mind actually happens. But here's something that will shock you. Jesus didn't seek silence after everything went wrong. He sought it beforehand. Imagine the scene. It's dawn. The sky is still dark. The village sleeps silently, but a figure rises, wraps himself in his cloak and walks alone toward the desert. There is no hurry, there is no agenda, just firm steps toward isolation. This man is Jesus, and he is about to do what he did every day before anything else. The Bible records something impressive in Mark 1:35. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Very early in the morning. Not after work, not when he had spare time, but before everything else, before the crowds, before the miracles, before the day's challenges. Jesus set aside the first moment of the day to be alone with the Father. And consider this context. The day before, Jesus had healed Peter's mother-in-law, cast out demons, and attended to a whole crowd that had gathered at the door of the house. He had every reason to sleep in, to rest. But no. While everyone slept, he sought what he knew to be more important than physical rest itself, rest for the soul. When the disciples finally found him, they said, Everyone is looking for you. And do you know what Jesus answered? Let's go to other places. He didn't let himself be controlled by external pressure because he had already resolved this in silence. He already had clarity. He already knew what to do. Powerful prayer and silence gave him an inner compass that no circumstance could divert him from. This was Jesus' routine. Luke 5:16 says, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." It wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't casual. It was a pattern, a habit of Jesus so consistent that the evangelists highlighted it several times. Before choosing the 12 apostates, Jesus spent the entire night praying. Before facing the cross, he went to Gethsemane. Silence and prayer were not optional. They were the foundation. And here is the secret that precedes healing. Emotional strength doesn't come from techniques. It comes from connection, and connection requires silence. So here begins the real transformation. The first habit that Jesus practiced and which can revolutionize your mind today is this: seeking silence to hear the truth. Because you see, our minds lie. They distort, they exaggerate. They take a comment and turn it into a sentence. They take a flaw and turn it into an identity. In the noise of everyday life, these lies go unnoticed. But in silence, they are exposed. And more, God's truth has room to enter. Jesus taught this in a practical way. In John 8:32, he said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." But how will you know the truth if you don't stop to listen? How will you renew your mind if you are always feeding it with the same external voices? Silence is not absence. It is intentional presence. It is you saying, "God, I stop, I listen, speak." Think about it. How many wrong decisions have you made because your mind was cluttered? How many times have you reacted with anger, fear, or anxiety simply because you lacked clarity? Spiritual silence acts as a filter. It separates what is yours, what belongs to the enemy, and what belongs to God. And when you learn to discern this, your mind finds balance. There's a powerful verse in Psalm 46:10 that says, "Be still and know that I am God." Being still isn't about being passive. It's about being intentional. It's about creating inner space so that God's voice can be louder than any other. And you know what happens when you do that? You discover who you truly are, not what others say, not what your past screams, but who God says you are. Jesus lived this. He knew who he was because he spent time with the Father. That's why when they accused him, he wasn't shaken. When they rejected him, he didn't have an identity crisis. Silence had already established the truth in his mind, and it can establish it in yours too. But there's a second habit that works alongside this one, and without it, the silence feels incomplete. Now comes the habit that transforms silence into power, prayer, which reorganizes everything from within. Because look, silence without direction becomes just emptiness. But when you combine silence with powerful prayer, something supernatural happens. Your soul, which was fragmented, begins to reorganize itself. Your thoughts, which were scattered, begin to align. And your emotions, which were in chaos, find a place of rest. Jesus prayed differently. It wasn't that memorized, mechanical, religious prayer. It was real conversation. It was deep surrender. In Matthew 6:6, he taught, "When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen." Why? Because prayer isn't performance, it's intimacy, and intimacy heals. Have you ever noticed how opening up to someone who truly understands you lightens the load? Prayer does that, but on an infinitely greater level, because you're not talking to someone limited. You're talking to the one who knows every thought before you even form a sentence. Psalm 139 makes that clear. God already knows, but he wants you to speak, because in the act of speaking, you process, you surrender, you release. Before you stop watching the video, do this. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like below. This helps me understand that this content is making a difference in your life, and you can be sure there's much more to come. Come back here and we'll continue. Jesus prayed before every important decision. Before choosing his disciples, he spent the entire night in prayer. Imagine the whole night. Not because God needed that much time to answer, but because Jesus needed that time to fully align himself with the Father's will. Prayer reorganized his soul. It brought clarity. It brought peace. It brought power. And you know what's amazing? Prayer also reorganizes priorities. When you truly pray, what seemed urgent loses its power. What seemed impossible gains hope. Emotional healing happens because you step out of the center and put God there. And when God is at the center, everything changes. Philippians 4:6-7 sums it all up. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. This peace is not emotional, it is spiritual, and it watches over your mind like a soldier watches over a fortress. But prayer alone is not enough. There was something Jesus did that deepened this transformation even further. Wait, Christian meditation, yes. And it's not what you're thinking. Christian meditation is not about emptying the mind. It's not about repeating mantras. It's not about seeking an altered state of consciousness. It's exactly the opposite. It's about filling the mind with truth. It's about ruminating on the Word of God until it becomes a part of you. Until, when the storm comes, the truth speaks louder than fear. Jesus knew the scriptures by heart. When tempted in the desert, he didn't improvise. He responded with the word. It is written, it is written, it is written. 3 times, 3 truths that silenced the lies of the enemy. This wasn't rote memorization. It was deep Christian meditation. The word was so deeply rooted in him that it naturally flowed forth in moments of pressure. Joshua 1:8 shows the power of this. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Meditate day and night. It's not reading and forgetting. It's chewing on it, absorbing it, letting the truth descend from your head to your heart. Do you know why so many people live in anxiety? Because their minds are full. But full of what? Bad news, comparisons, future worries, past traumas. Christian meditation cleanses. It replaces mental garbage with eternal truth. And when your mind is full of the Word, there's no room left for anxiety. Imagine a sponge soaked in dirty water. You can wring it out, but dirt will still come out. Now, if you put that sponge under clean, running water, what happens? The clean water washes away the dirty water. That's how Christian meditation works. You don't fight against bad thoughts. You replace them with powerful truths. Jesus lived this. That's why he had a balanced mind even when everything around him was in chaos. Crowds pressured him, religious leaders attacked him, friends betrayed him, but inside, peace. Because his mind was fixed on the truth of the Father, and yours can be too, but there is something that Jesus confronted head-on, and that many people still try to hide. And now we've reached a point that's going to be unsettling. Because Jesus didn't pat anxiety on the back, he confronted it head-on, and the way he did it is revolutionary. In Matthew 6:25-34, Jesus gave the most direct discourse on anxiety that exists. He said, "Do not be anxious about your life. It's not a suggestion, it's a command. And before you think, oh, but he didn't understand my reality, think again." Jesus knew he would be betrayed, tortured, and killed, and yet he did not give in to anxiety. He continues, "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they?" Here lies the root of anxiety, the belief that you are alone, that everything depends on you, that if you fail, it's over. Jesus destroys this lie with a simple truth. You have a Father, and he cares. But the strongest part comes now. Which of you, by worrying, can add a single cubit to your life? In other words, worry changes nothing. 0. You can spend the whole night dwelling on a problem, and you know what will change? Nothing, except your mental health, your peace, your body. Anxiety steals, but it doesn't add. Jesus wasn't being insensitive. He was being real. He was saying, look, you have a choice. You can spend your energy worrying, or you can spend it on faith. And then he gives the antidote, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. The secret isn't to stop thinking, it's to change your focus. Instead of focusing on the problem, focus on God, who is greater than the problem. Instead of focusing on what if this goes wrong, focus on, but God is in control. That's the faith that transforms. Not a passive faith that waits for everything to fall from the sky, but an active faith that repositions the mind in the right place. And when you do that, the cure for anxiety in the Bible isn't theory, it's experience. But hold on, because there's a fifth habit that will show you how this faith works in practice. Here's something a lot of people don't understand. Faith doesn't just change your situation, it changes you first. Jesus taught that faith works from the inside out, not from the outside in. In Mark 11:23, he said something shocking. If anyone says to this mountain, "Go, throw yourself into the sea," and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them. But look at the detail, does not doubt in their heart. The battle of faith happens inside, in the mind, in the heart. That's where the mountain falls first. Because look, you can pray for deliverance, but if your mind remains trapped, you won't experience freedom. You can pray for healing, but if your mind remains sick, you won't live healed. The faith that transforms doesn't wait for circumstances to change for you to change. It changes you, and the circumstances come later. Or sometimes it doesn't even need to change, because you're no longer the same person. Think of the woman with the issue of blood. 12 years of suffering. She spent all she had on doctors. Nothing helped. But one day she had a different thought. If I only touch his clothes, I will be healed. Mark 5:28. Notice how interesting this is. She didn't say, I'm going to ask him to heal me. She said, I'm going to touch him and I will be healed. Faith had already made the healing happen in her mind even before she touched Jesus. And when she touched him, Jesus said, your faith has saved you. It wasn't the touch, it was the faith, the inner conviction, the transformed mind that generated the action that brought about the miracle. That is true life change. That is inner transformation that overflows outward. Jesus lived this. Even when he was on the cross, being ridiculed and abandoned, he did not doubt his identity. He did not doubt his purpose. He did not suffer a mental breakdown. Why? Because his faith did not depend on circumstances. His mind was fixed on the truth of the Father, and that sustained him to the end. Hebrews 11:1 defines faith as follows: the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Assurance. Conviction. This is not a feeling, it's a mental stance. It's you deciding what you will believe, regardless of what your eyes see. And when your mind is positioned in God's truth, everything changes. But this faith needs something to keep it firm, and that's where the sixth habit comes in. Let's talk about something nobody wants to hear but everyone needs: discipline. Because look, you can have incredible experiences with God. You can have breathtaking moments in worship. You can feel his presence powerfully. But if you don't have Christian spiritual discipline, those moments will only be that, moments. And your life will continue to fluctuate. Today strong, tomorrow in crisis. Today full of faith, tomorrow full of fear. Jesus didn't live by emotions. He lived by principles. And the main principle was constancy. He got up early, every day. Not just when he felt like it, not just when he was inspired, but every day. Luke 22:39 says, and he went out, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives. As usual, habit, discipline. The great truth is this: emotions change, circumstances change, but discipline creates stability. It builds a solid foundation that no storm can knock down. And when you have that foundation, your mind doesn't panic every time something goes wrong, because you know you have a place to return to. a routine that anchors you. Paul understood this deeply. In 1 Corinthians 9:27, he said, "I discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest after preaching to others, I myself should become disqualified." Paul didn't rely solely on grace. He combined grace with discipline, because grace saves you, but discipline sustains you. Think about athletes. They don't just train when they're motivated. They train every day. Rain, sun, fatigue, pain. Why? Because they know that discipline generates results. And spiritually, it's the same thing. You set aside time with God every day, not because you always feel like it, but because you know you need to. And over time, this habit of Jesus transforms your mind so profoundly that you don't even recognize who you were before. But there's something that discipline alone can't solve. There are wounds that need a specific remedy, and Jesus knew exactly what it was. Here is a paradox that Jesus taught. The healing of your mind may lie in healing the pain of another person. Does it seem strange? But think about it. When you're obsessed with your own problems, they seem gigantic. Your mind gets stuck in a loop. My suffering, my pain, my problem. And the more you look inside, the heavier it gets. But when you step outside yourself and serve someone else, something changes. Suddenly your problems don't seem so big. Your pain no longer consumes all the space. Jesus lived this radically. He healed, he fed, he comforted, he served. And yet he had reasons to focus only on himself. He knew he was going to die. He knew he would be rejected. He knew the weight he carried. But even so, he looked at others. In Mark 6:34, after trying to rest and being interrupted by crowds, it is written, "When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things: compassion, serving, even when tired, even when needing time for yourself. Why? Because Jesus knew that love heals, not only the one who receives, but especially the one who gives. When you love, something happens inside you. You find purpose, you find meaning, you find a reason to continue. John 13 shows Jesus washing the disciples' feet. Imagine the scene. He, the master, kneeling, washing dirty feet. And then he said, "If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet." Serving is not optional. It's a commandment. And it's not just for the sake of others. It's for your own sake too. Because serving breaks down pride, it breaks down selfishness, and it releases inner spiritual healing that no therapy can provide. There's a powerful verse in Proverbs 11:25 that says, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." You read that right. Whoever refreshes others is refreshed. When you shift your focus from your own pain and look at the pain of others, God works something supernatural. Your mind expands, your heart opens, and what was trapped is released. But there's something even deeper, a habit that truly sets you free, and without it no other habit completes the cure. And now we come to the most difficult point. Because you can do everything right, seek silence, pray, meditate, have faith, discipline, serve, but if you don't forgive, your mind will remain trapped. Forgiveness is not a feeling. It's not pretending it didn't hurt. It's not forgetting. Forgiveness is a decision. It's you saying, "I release this person from the debt they owe me, and I release myself from the prison of carrying this resentment." Because the truth is this: when you don't forgive, you're the one who remains imprisoned. The person who hurt you has already moved on with their life, but you continue to dwell on it, to relive the pain, and your mind becomes a prison. Jesus was radical about this. In Matthew 6:14-15, he said, "For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses." This is serious. It's not a threat. It's a spiritual consequence. Because if you don't forgive, you block the flow of grace in your life. And without grace, there is no healing. But look at the greatest example, Jesus on the cross, nailed, bleeding, humiliated. And even then he said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Luke 23:34. He didn't wait for them to apologize. He didn't wait for them to acknowledge their wrongdoing. He forgave them, and in that forgiveness, he freed not only them. He freed himself from any bitterness that might have consumed his heart. Have you ever noticed how bitterness makes you sick, physically, emotionally, spiritually? It poisons everything, your sleep, your relationships, your joy. And do you know the antidote? Forgiveness. It's like pulling out a thorn stuck in your soul. It hurts to remove it, but after it's gone, what a relief, what lightness, what inner peace, according to the Bible. Ephesians 4:31-32 summarizes, "Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you." Forgive as we have been forgiven. That is the key. Because if God forgave the unforgivable in you, who are you to not forgive others? But wait, because there's a final secret that ties everything together, and that's what will transform your life once and for all. The time has come. The moment I promised at the beginning, the secret of Christ's peace that unites all these spiritual habits and makes sense. Because look, you can have silence, prayer, meditation, faith, discipline, love, forgiveness. But if you don't understand what connects all of that, you'll live a fragmented life. One day you practice one thing, another day another. And inner transformation is never complete. But when you discover the secret, everything changes forever. The secret is in John 14:27. Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." Jesus' peace is not the absence of problems. It is God's presence in the midst of problems. It is a peace that the world does not understand. Because the world seeks peace by changing circumstances, Jesus offers peace by changing you. And how did he do that? Through constant connection with the Father. Jesus said in John 15:5, "I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing." To remain, that is the key word. All the habits we've talked about so far have a single purpose: to keep you connected. Silence connects, prayer connects, meditation connects, faith connects, discipline maintains the connection, love expresses the connection, forgiveness releases the connection. Everything revolves around this, remaining in him. Because when you remain, peace flows, healing of the mind happens, transformation is inevitable. Do you know why so many people live in crisis? Because they disconnect. They spend days without seeking God, weeks without deep prayer, months without meditating on the Word. And then they ask themselves, why don't I have peace? Because peace is not a product, it is a fruit. And fruit only grows in those who are connected to the vine. Philippians 4:7 says, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." It will guard, a continuous present. It's not something you acquire once, and that's it. It's something that is maintained through the constant practice of these habits of Jesus, through abiding. And here's the ultimate truth. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to do everything right, but you need to persevere, fall, and get back up, fail and start again, but never ever disconnect, because it is in connection that the mind finds rest for the soul. It is there that anxiety loses its power. It is there that the peace that surpasses all understanding guards you like an invisible shield. That's the secret. It's not complicated, it's not unattainable, it's simple, but it needs to be lived every day, every moment. In silence and in prayer, in faith and in discipline, in love and in forgiveness. And when you live this, you no longer seek peace, you become peace. So what are you going to do with all of this? Because look, you can close this video, go back to your routine, and forget everything in 5 minutes, or you can make a decision right now. A decision that will change not only your mind, but your entire life. Every day you have a choice: to immerse yourself in the noise or seek silence, to live in anxiety or practice faith, to carry resentment or release forgiveness, to remain disconnected or remain in Him. And each choice, however small it may seem, builds something. It builds peace or it builds chaos. It builds healing or it builds wounds. Jesus left us a path, not a path of perfection, but of transformation. A path that begins in silence, passes through powerful prayer, deepens in Christian meditation, confronts anxiety with faith, is sustained by spiritual discipline, expands in love, is liberated in forgiveness, and leads to a peace that the world cannot give. This is the path to healing the mind, and it is open to you today. So I want to invite you, start tomorrow. Before picking up your phone, before anything else, set aside 5 minutes of silence with God, just 5, and talk to Him, really. Without rushing, without an agenda, just you and Him, and see what happens. Because when you make space, God enters, and when God enters, everything transforms. Comment below now, I'm going to start tomorrow. I want to see who will have the courage to take that step. And if this video touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because this message isn't just for you. It's for everyone who is tired of living with a warring mind and wants to finally find peace in Jesus. And remember, the journey of healing the mind doesn't end here. It begins. And God is with you every step of the way. As He promised in Isaiah 41:10, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." May this word resonate in your soul. May these spiritual habits become part of who you are. And may the peace of Christ, which surpasses all understanding, guard your mind and your heart, today and always. Go in peace. And don't forget, finding peace in Jesus is no mystery. It's practice, it's a choice, it's remaining.